It was 7, my phone was dead. I was sitting at a small table nursing a flat white when the gallery owner came over to water the plants in the front window. It was our usual ritual. She would come around once a week to do this, to prune them back into shape. They were all bonsai, which is really fitting because just like those trees, we were always being shaped into something smaller than we were before. I felt like the whole world had been ripped apart, thrown into a blender, and then dropped into my lap. That day last week, I found out that my boyfriend was cheating on me with his co-founder, someone who I had once considered my friend. And now here I was, freezing cold in a dress and heels and a cashmere coat, waiting for an Uber in the West Village. The gallery owner noticed me staring at the tree she was holding. "That one's for sale," she said. I wasn't even sure what type of tree it was, but I knew I wanted it. I told the gallery owner to wrap it up and brought it home. When I got there, I set it on the kitchen counter next to the sink and turned on every light I could find. It was still too dark outside to see anything, so I opened the blinds and watched the sun trickle through the leaves. I knew then that that tree was going to be fine. Despite its fragile appearance, it was strong enough to withstand whatever storms might come its way. My phone was still dead, so I couldn't tell anyone about the disaster that had unfolded. My boyfriend had sent me a text message saying he needed space. He wasn't ready for a relationship. There was nothing more that I could say to him, no grand declaration that would make him come back to me. In the end, I decided to treat myself. I made some breakfast and sat down to watch some TV. I've never been good at taking care of plants. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've killed every plant I've ever owned. But this one felt different. Maybe it was because I had a front row seat to its strength, or maybe I was just desperate for something that I could nurture. Whatever the reason, I was determined to keep it alive. Days went by. I named the plant Theo. I watered it, moved it to a spot with more sunlight, and waited. It was hard not to feel connected to it, especially as it started to grow. I used to think love was the most transformative experience a person could go through, but it turns out heartbreak can change you too. You just have to let yourself be reshaped. Vogue recently published an essay called Love Stories, Looking for Forward Motion. The piece is part of our series in partnership with Gucci, exploring the power of love in all its forms. Through moving image and written word, we're examining what love means to us and how it influences our past, present, and future. There are these classic love stories we tell ourselves, like Cinderella meeting her prince at the stroke of midnight or the epic romance between Rome and Juliet. But what about the other stories? The ones where you don't end up together or true love doesn't conquer all? This series explores those moments of self-discovery and healing, those instances where the narrative shifts and becomes something new, something real. I read the title of the story and laughed out loud. Yeah, looking for forward motion. That was exactly what I needed. Something to remind me that even though I was hurting, I was also getting stronger. Like the branches of Theo, I was learning how to bend without breaking. The article talks about a woman who finds solace in a house filled with objects that bring her joy. Each item has a story, a memory attached to it. There's this ceramic jar filled with dried flowers from her wedding, a pair of silver cufflinks that belonged to her great uncle, and a photo of her late mother wearing a vintage hat. For this woman, collecting these objects is a form of self-care. It is a way for her to connect with herself and others while creating a sense of continuity in an ever-changing world. As I read through the piece, I thought about all the things that I had collected over the years. Not material objects necessarily, but moments, experiences, memories. There was the time I traveled to India and learned how to cook curry from scratch, or when I hiked the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. These experiences had shaped me into who I was, but they didn't define me. They were just chapters in the story I was writing. What I needed to do was focus on the story I was telling myself about what happened after the breakup. Instead of focusing on the pain and the heartache, I decided to focus on the opportunity for growth, for change. I realized that I was at a crossroads, and the path I chose to take would determine where I ended up. Would I stay in the same place, the same job, the same city, or would I try something new? Would I travel, move to another country, start a new career? I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was open to the possibilities. I spent the next few days reaching out to friends, making plans, trying to get excited about the future. It was hard. I'll admit that. Some days were better than others. Some days I felt like I was making progress, like I was getting my life back on track. Other days I just wanted to crawl under the covers and never come out. But then I would look at Theo and I would remember that it was okay to not be okay. It was okay to grieve the loss of the relationship. It was okay to be scared about the future. But it was also okay to be hopeful. Hopeful that one day I would find someone who loved me as much as I loved him. Hopeful that one day I would find my happily ever after. Like the woman in the article, I realized that it was okay to take my time to heal, to grieve the loss of the relationship. There was no need to rush into anything new. I didn't need to prove myself by staying in a job I hated or dating someone who didn't make me happy. I was allowed to prioritize my own happiness. I'd always been drawn to the idea of living abroad. I'd studied abroad in college and had always dreamed of living in a foreign country. After the breakup, I decided to take the plunge and buy a one-way ticket to Paris. Within a few months, I had packed up my things and moved to the City of Lights. In Paris, I took classes to improve my French, explored the city, and met new people. I didn't know what the future held, but I was excited to find out. As the months went by, I started to feel like myself again. I was taking care of myself both emotionally and physically. I was eating well, exercising, and getting enough sleep. I was also surrounding myself with positive people who supported me and made me laugh. One day, I was watering Theo when I noticed that it had grown so much since I bought it. Its branches were reaching towards the light and its leaves were a vibrant green. I couldn't help but smile. Just like Theo, I was growing and changing. I was becoming stronger and more resilient. And I knew that no matter what challenges I faced in the future, I would be able to overcome them. Over the next year, I continued to travel, explore, and grow. I visited new countries, met new people, and had new experiences. I also started a blog to document my journey. Through it, I was able to connect with other women who were going through similar experiences, and I was able to share my story and help others. One day, I received a message from a reader who told me that my story had helped her through a difficult time in her life. In that moment, I realized that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I was living the life of my dreams. Now, whenever I feel lost or uncertain about the future, I just need to look at Theo to remind myself that everything will be okay. I've learned that the most important thing in life is to follow your heart and to never give up on your dreams. No matter how difficult things may seem, just keep moving forward and eventually you will find your happily ever after.